Good morning. Thank you for joining us for Pet Connect. My name is Tara Douglas. Our special guest today is someone who does a lot for this community in general, but of course this is Pet Connect, so we're going to focus on his work through the Sylacauga Animal Shelter and the Feral Dogs of Avondale Mill, our local nonprofit that helps with our homeless dog and cat population in the area. He's also the owner of Shoot First Video. So welcome Jeff Turner to the show. We're glad you're here with us.
Thank you. I'm glad you invited me.
Great. So before we get to all of your information about your animal rescue efforts, tell us a little bit about who you are for our viewers that don't know you.
Well, I own and operate Shoot First Video and Photography. I'm a videographer as well as a still photographer. My wife owns Mutt Cuts that also helps out with the animal problems. Basically, I'm a Sylacauga native that left, joined the Army for several years, came back and settled back down in Sylacauga.
That's great. I know the community is glad to have you back here. So with your work with feral dogs, how did that start? How long have you been working with them?
Really since the beginning, I guess. I think I first met Terry Brooks and Mitzi Smith at a meeting when the city first took over the shelter. I later met Carolyn and her husband Ron doesn't get sung a lot of praises, but he does a lot in the background.
Yeah.
There was a problem, and my wife and I said, we have to be a part of this. And it started out really small, and man, it's grown into something that's absolutely amazing now. There's so many different facets of this organization.
Absolutely, and each week we'll discuss a lot of those different facets, but with you in particular, I've seen your horde in the back of the studio and Mutt Cuts. So with the fostering work through feral dogs, you have a lot of, or most all of the supplies there for the fosters.
I have a good bit of it. Terry Brooks actually has helped in taking some of that weight off of me. Terry actually provides for the puppy fosters now, so I don't have to do that.
Okay.
That frees up a lot of my time. But for the people feeding the feral dogs at the real feral dogs at Avondale, we have people who come by and they go out daily and feed those dogs and water those dogs and give them medicine and all that. I provide a place to store the supplies for them. I store the supplies for the cat fosters, the kitten fosters, and then several other things. And I just provide a space to do that with.
And we just had that picture up of all of the supplies that you have there. Where did those supplies generally come from? Are they?
They're all donations.
Okay.
And actually some of our members come out of pocket to do that. Okay. None of that is provided by any government funds or anything like that. It's a lot of it comes from local donations. Some comes from other shelters.
Okay.
Some comes from out of state. Sometimes when we send a load of dogs up north, they'll load our van up and send it back with dog food and cat food and stuff like that.
Okay. So those are our dogs that are leaving either the shelter or the foster system that are going to other shelters to get adopted in other states.
Usually they don't go to a shelter, they go to an organization.
Okay.
A lot of those organizations do not even have facilities. They have fosters lined up, and that's more of a Carolyn thing. She knows more about that, but what I see out of it is the van coming back slap loaded with dog food, cat food, and everything.
And you've got all the shelving space.
It goes on the shelving space, and sometimes it's in the floor and piled up everywhere else.
And so through the foster system, we discussed this with Terry a couple of weeks ago. Through the foster system, the people that are fostering the cats and dogs, they can get all of the supplies that they need, that there's not a lot that comes out of pocket from them.
Yeah, they call it the shopping at the Mutt Cut store, or the foster store, and that's true. And that's a lot of time we have people that are volunteering to foster that really can't afford to pay, so this makes it easier on them. And the people, if you paid to feed those feral dogs out at Avondale, that would be a lot of money out of pocket.
Absolutely.
So if these donations are available, and for instance, a store may donate torn bags and stuff like that. So it makes it more affordable. Feral dogs could not collect enough money to buy all this food. So yes, it's a pretty important part of it.
Absolutely. So you said that it kind of grew, that you initially started with feral dogs with some volunteering, and now it's grown to lots of different things that you're doing now. I understand that you and Missy also foster.
We do. We
Okay.
do. We fostered, and I wished I had a count of how many that we fostered. We've kind of fell into a little niche. We had fostered puppies at one time and decided that wasn't a good idea for us because of it being right there at Mutt Cuts. We take some of the troubled cases.
Okay.
We take some cases that usually they're not socialized well enough or fearful, things like that.
Okay.
We get them out of the shelter. The shelter is we have a wonderful shelter and a wonderful staff, but it's a terrible place for a dog that's fearful, especially a small, medium-sized dog. So we get those out of the shelter, get them into our offices, and socialize them.
Okay.
That's kind of become our niche. And usually they get adopted out of our shop, straight out of our shop. Somebody will walk in and say, hey, I love that dog, and it goes home with somebody. Some get so well socialized that they're able to be shipped off, transferred to another rescue.
That's great. And I understand you have some good success stories with your fosters that you can share with us.
I brought a couple of clips
Okay.
that I want to show you. First one is going to be Banjo. Banjo came to us as a fear biter.
Okay.
Now, this is him. This is day 2. I gave him 24 hours to decompress.
Okay.
But if you can see, hold up. Well, this is actually, if you can see, he's pulling away from me.
Mm-hmm.
He don't want me near him. He's terrified. He's scared. And what's happening is I'm just getting closer and closer and closer. That was day 2. And if you'll roll that second clip, this is day 12.
Okay.
This is what happens
It's
with
an amazing difference.
with a little bit of trust and a little bit of patience. And that's what happens.
Yeah.
And and so him being a success story, a beautiful couple that live on the lake walked in the shop to get Molly groomed. Their Cocker Spaniel, senior Cocker Spaniel. I think she's 12 or 13 years old. They walked back and looked at Banjo, and I'm still calling him Banjo, I'll tell you in a minute. So they walked back and looked at Banjo and said, yes, he is a beautiful dog, great dog. So they took him home. And now he lives on the lake with Molly and his, they call her his cougar because she's so much older than him. He loves her, he loves them. He gets to come back and see us because they bring him back to be groomed. And so I come in the office one day and Missy tells me we have this new guy. We call this a rehab. We call ourselves a rehab because we bring them in, we rehab the dogs. So I come in one day and we've got a new rehab patient named Scooter.
Okay.
And Missy says, hold on, I want you to, I need you to get a dog out of a cage for me. She said, go down the last kennel on the end. And I'm thinking that's kind of strange because she doesn't usually need my help. I go down to that kennel, there's Banjo. So I just open the kennel, I let him out, I come in there, and you can show that other clip now. I introduced, there's Banjo and Scooter. And so this was our most recent graduate along with our newest student.
Oh, that's great.
So I just lost a whole day's work there. I just
It was too exciting.
I locked all my doors and stayed on the floor with the dogs all day long. So.
And that is phenomenal because you can really see with a dog that's scared like that they do everything they can at the shelter, but sometimes they need that quiet time and that one-on-one time that you and Missy are able to provide them and give them that new life, and that's great. And so now, and you said you don't know how many dogs you fostered over the years.
No, we've absolutely lost track. At one point we tried to keep up with it, and we just, sometimes she has to tell me when one's in. In fact, one of them that we love dearly lives across the street from us.
Okay.
Our neighbor across the street was having her poodle groomed with us, and she walked in. That was a beautiful scene because this one was a little nippy, it would bark at you, growl at you. She walked up to the pen that it was in, and Abby went, bah, 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 bah. Miss Dorothy just reached over that cage, said, you stop that, reached down and petted her. She took her home.
Of course, sounds like a
yeah, it was
she
nice.
could handle her, and
Yep.
They were a match made in heaven. So any other stories about fosters before
Well, the one I have now
Okay.
is one. It's the first time I've ever had an aggressive dog.
Okay.
Actually, he has what we call spoiled brat syndrome.
Okay.
He barks and nips at you when he don't get his way. So I show you, this is Mongo on day 1. There he is. Yeah, if you notice, he's not doing what Banjo did. He's not backing away from me. He's showing me his teeth. He's daring me to come into his enclosure. Now I've worked with him for a couple of months now. We found out that he really likes to go walking. On that first day,
Okay.
I presented a leash, and he says, "Wait a minute, this guy may be okay." So this dog reasons. He's one of the smartest dogs I've ever had in my care. He actually reasons things through, and he reasoned that I could take him for a walk, so we became friends. Now we call him a self-loading leash.
Okay.
There we go.
Wow, what a difference with him. He just jumped up into that leash.
Look, he's actually aiming for the leash.
You need to go on the road with him.
It took, the dog is so smart. That's Mongo. He is so smart. When he was doing that jump naturally, and I would just put the leash out, right? So I didn't train this dog to do that. He just did this. It took about 3 times of me, lassoing him with that leash. Then he said, "Oh, he wants me in." So he started jumping for it for himself,
You could take the credit that you're a wonderful trainer instead of he's the smartest dog.
Not my credit. And we're still working with him.
Okay.
He's still got some aggression issues. He is available for adoption if someone with some experience wanted to adopt him, and someone that would continue working with him. But it would have to be somebody. Otherwise, we've got more time to spend with him before he's actually available.
Okay. Now, is there any way, I know we talked to Terry Brooks a couple of weeks ago, and she's in the puppy world, so she can tell us, okay, this is how long you keep puppies.
Right.
When you start working with the older dogs, I know you never know what you're getting into, how long you might foster those dogs. Have you experienced any kind of average amount of time, or is it just so different with each dog?
It really is a different case every time, and I appreciate that Carolyn and Mitzi and Terry and them kind of let me make that judgment call. Like I said, some dogs have come in, and within a few weeks, we've had some that within a few days were ready to put on transport. All they needed was to get into a calm place. Others have taken weeks. Others I've said, don't need to travel at all.
Yeah.
Those are the ones we keep until somebody walks in and adopts them.
Okay.
And by the way, I meant to finish and telling you that Banjo's name is now Benji.
Benji, okay.
And he's and really I told them, they were in the office yesterday. And I walked in the front door and I saw Benji and just loved on him and everything. I told his owner, I said, that dog should still be Banjo. Because we would just about have taken him home. But we try not to. We have adopted a new dog recently.
Okay.
But we don't take a lot of them home. One of the things that people ask me, and this is what I try to tell people when you want to foster, they say, how do you turn them loose? You turn them loose because you treat it as if it's a job. You turn those dogs loose that you've got. Those puppies you've got, you have to turn them loose because your space needs to be available for another set of puppies or for another dog. So yes, I'll have to turn Mongo loose at some point because some other dog needs that help.
Absolutely. Now, it sounds like you've done incredible work with the foster system, but as we touched on at the beginning of our conversation, there's so many different things that you can do to help the feral dogs of Avondale Mill and help with the problems that we have with the homeless dogs and cats in this area. So what else do you and Missy do for feral dogs?
Well, I think the most unique thing is the newspaper cycle.
Okay.
We have, puppy fosters always need newspapers. So I had a 10-foot white trailer sitting out in the back of the shop that I rarely use. We started storing the newspapers in that trailer, So now we have connections with people who are connected with newspaper providers that bring us bundles of papers. I just gave them the keys to the trailer. So they put the papers in the back door of the trailer. We have a woman named Miss Linda that goes and gets the papers out of their bundles, takes them to her house, unfolds them, because you wouldn't believe how much time a puppy foster spends unfolding papers and getting the slicks out of them and all that. She brings them back unfolded and puts them in the side door of the trailer. And then Terry and Patty and some of the others have keys also. So that's kind of something that we can contribute that takes none of my time. It's just there, and it's a self-operating system.
That's great. So, and anything else to share with us before you go?
I could spend another 15-minute segment if you want to.
We'll have you back on for sure, and we'll get an update on your fostering system that you have. But we really appreciate everything that you do for the community, and I know feral dogs couldn't function without everything that you and Missy do to help them. So yeah, we appreciate you coming on the show and telling us about it. And throughout the show, we will definitely go through more ways that you can help to Feral Dogs of Avondale Mill and help the Sylacauga Animal Shelter. We focused on fostering the last few weeks, but as Jeff just said, there's so many other things that you can do, and every little bit helps. And we as a community can certainly help solve this overpopulation problem of our cats and dogs. But next week, make sure you join us, because we're going to move to, of course, we'll focus on Feral Dogs of Avondale Mill as always, but we're going to move to a little informative segment about how you can make your dog's life happier by using our parks and trail systems here in Sylacauga. So we're going to have the Executive Director of the Sylacauga Parks and Rec, Steve Masters, joining us. And just make sure to tune in next week, and hope everyone's doing well, and we will see you next week. Make sure you spay and neuter your pets. Thanks.